Dr. Siobhan Kennedy Costantini and Dr. Kristen Summer. We, again, have an inordinate amount of education and have no idea what we're doing in the realm of parenthood. So welcome to the club. We're glad you're here. And hey, Siobhan, how you doing?
I'm so well. Thank you for saying hello to me. That makes me feel happy and nice inside. Um, sorry, I was going to say thank you for having me, and then I remembered this is my podcast as well. So, woohoo! Yes, we both have PhDs in child development, which is a blessing and a curse. Means we know a lot, but at the same time, like any other parent in the world, we're trying to figure it out as we go along. So we are just here sharing with you what's been going on. So we'll get into the episode proper shortly, but we want to share some fun, cool stuff that's been happening. So last night or yesterday afternoon, Chris and I both got an email from Channel 9, which is one of the major media channels in Australia. We were invited to be on a hit reality show called Parental Guidance. So they had a season last year where they basically take parents who follow a prescribed parenting philosophy, and then they pit each other against each other and talk about the benefits and costs, and then they have psychologists critique them. And it was well received in that it got people talking. But anyway, I opened the email excited, thinking that we were going to be the academics who could talk about it, but instead we were invited to be participants in this reality show as evidence-based parents, which I don't know if that exists.
I'm actually I'm not even sure if they were inviting us, and hey, they didn't think that we were different people. They thought that we were the same person. They thought that my TikTok was science-minded as well. And our podcast was all just one person, that hey, we're different people. I'm Kristen, this is Siobhan. Siobhan runs Science-Minded. I run Dr. Kristen Summer. We are two people with two bodies. But anyways, it was really weird because she's it sounded like she was inviting us to be on the show, but at the same time she's if you know anyone between the 4 to 14, has children between 4 and 14. I was just this is a weird email. But then at the end of it, she dropped, here's our media tile for you to share with your following. And I was just I've never watched Parental Guidance. People kept telling me about it, and I was I don't have the capacity to think about that. No. I do enough parenting content stuff, and I consume enough of it on social media. I don't want to have to deal with a popular media show that really doesn't have much of an evidence basis at all. And I was just oh God, I don't even want to think about this. And then they go and ask us to share their media tile, and I responded, and I was yeah, look, we don't know anyone. I'm not about to share it with my community because I don't think we should encourage anyone to go on a show like that where they have their whole life critiqued, because hello, mum shame at a national level, not okay. That's going to destroy some mental health. And I'm all about protecting my mental health of my followers. But I was look, if you want to talk about a brand partnership, we can do that after I've watched the show to see how I really feel about it. And I got the response. Siobhan, were you CC'd on that response?
I was, yeah. I was just sorry, we don't do brand deals. Okay, thanks, bye. I can only assume it's some junior casting agent who's basically come out of a meeting being find people. And she's probably just spammed as many people as she can find.
Absolutely.
She was very polite and lovely.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But it does raise a bigger issue, right? We're not really creatives. We're academics, but the fact that creators are constantly asked to do things for free on their platforms that they have spent many, many hours curating and creating for no pay. I'm a creator on TikTok. I don't get paid anything. In Australia, we aren't part of the Creator Fund. The same goes for Instagram. We don't get any of the monetization features that are on Instagram. So the only way we make money is I don't know, I do ads to cover the costs of hosting my website and hosting this podcast, which we pay for a service to record it properly for you guys. And that's it. And Siobhan, you do sensory classes, but you deliver an actual in-person service, and you do, you've got your fact packs, which we, a few episodes ago, gave everyone on here 50% off for, and I think that's still active. Is it, Siobhan?
Still live, yes, 50% off.
We love that.
coupon code parenting unpacked.
We love that. And so, yeah, it really grinds my gears when a massive national TV service goes, I've seen your TikTok, so you obviously know that like I have a following and I curate that following and I work really hard on it. Can you share our media tile? Implying that it should be for free. And like, no. I'm never going to do that for free unless I really vibe with the content, and I'm going to do it of my own volition, not because someone asked me to. And I don't know if I vibe with parenting. What's it called? Parental guidance?
Parental guidance, yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if I'm ever going to watch it.
No.
This makes me less likely to watch it because it sounds like these people have just really undervalued our platforms and thought that we were one person, so they've really not looked into it. And like, I get that she's probably really busy and spamming a bunch of people, but like, didn't sit well with me. So
yeah.
Anyways,
look, I just came very out of the blue, and I was like, oh, okay, no, thank you, goodbye. But yeah, no, it is interesting, and I think like that's where it comes to. You just need to be, and also it's not really what we do.
No,
it's not really what we're about. So no problems. But
like,
let's talk about what we do. This is a perfect segue. Oh, sorry,
stop,
you've got more. Go.
I want to ask because you brought it up. You're like, is evidence-based parenting even a parenting style?
Oh,
and
no,
like,
I don't think it is.
No, from the theoretical standpoint, it's not. I teach evidence-based parenting on my platform. You teach evidence-based parenting on your platform. It's just because there's so many different like made-up parenting styles around social media at the moment. We just want one clear like parenting style. So I teach evidence-based parenting, which, let's be honest, it's authoritative parenting. Like, if we're going into the 4 different parenting styles that Diana Baumrind designed way back when, it's authoritative parenting.
That's what the evidence tends to support. So I don't think there is evidence-based parenting. I think there's parenting the child in front of you.
Absolutely. And I think
like,
that
there are
even
some
with
children... Sorry, go.
Even with parenting styles, I think you'll find that people sometimes slip and slide all around all the different parenting styles on the daily. I mean, you can have one like preferred way of parenting, but depending on your own emotional state, depending on what's going on in your life, you're probably going to slip and slide between authoritarian, authoritative, permissive, and uninvolved at some point in your parenting journey. Maybe you like are going to be like slipping and sliding all the time, but you're forever like working towards progress, right? We're working towards being as consistent as possible and working towards that authoritative approach as possible. But hey, everybody slips and slides. I slip and slide. Like, it's just kind of what happens. You parent the child.
Different kids need different things, and like some kids like require a much firmer hand and much more consistent, not harsh, but like, oi, this is what I said, do it now kind of attitude. Other kids would be really confronted by that. So like you just have to like, and that happens within the same family. Like there are different children who come from the same genetic pool that require different things. So I guess like evidence in terms of the fact that it's informed, that you look to other sources, but like, and as we know, when it comes to science, what we know and what we understand is forever changing. And we can talk about it on a future episode because there's a huge wealth of knowledge in your brain here, Kristen, about like, for the best example is the video deficit effect. It used to be a super well-established effect, but because like in the 70s and 80s when children, like the quality of their television viewing was different, whereas now kids aren't just watching TV, they're interacting with live, engaging apps. Like, so the way we are learning through technology is changing, and that means the way our brains are processing and learning with technology changes. So like on a pure scientific level, we're not evolving, that's not quite the right word, we're adapting to suit our environment, so are our children, and that's how parenting works. It adapts and changes depending on the situation we're dealing with. So evidence-based parenting feels way too reductive to me as a parenting strategy.
That's funny. Yeah, no, I call it evidence-based parenting because that way it feels trustworthy, I think, to the greater population.
Labels have their place, but it's more nuanced than that.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is like I do evidence-based parenting education because that way we're not stuck in the 60s when they first designed the 4 different types of parenting styles and no one's feeling like, like, why is this the best parenting style? if you go evidence-based parenting, it's literally, here's the current evidence that we have as it's coming out for you. Like, that's kind of my approach. But yeah, I get you. It's like evidence-based parenting. Any kind of parenting style name is reductive. It should be parent the child in front of you with respect, with like understanding, with compassion and empathy and support. Just be a good human to other humans, whether they be big or small. Yeah. Anyways, John, what are we doing today? What's this episode actually about?
Today we are doing a fun little idea that Kristen came up with, the clever lady that she is. So basically, this is an episode that we've been meaning to record for the last 4 episodes, and we got sidetracked and waylaid in the way that we do. But we're finally doing it. So basically, it's a this or that series. So when it comes to parenthood and parenting small children, there are lots of you're doing this style of parenting, or you're choosing to feed your child in this way, or you're choosing to sleep in this way, or you're choosing to discipline in this way. And there's lots of categorizations. So we thought we might go through the list and decide, which one did we do? Did we do this one or that one? What did we think we were going to do? What did we end up doing? For some of them, they're kind of more future, like our kids are 2. So there's some like toilet training stuff and some school-based stuff, which we don't have the answers yet, and maybe in 5 to 10 years we'll let you know what we ended up doing.
This is true.
But let's start. So the first one of the list is bed sharing versus sleep training. What did you think you were going to do, and what did you end up doing?
I didn't think I was going to sleep train, but I also didn't think I was going to bed share. I was scandalized by the fact that when I went to a breastfeeding course, they taught safe sleep, safe bed sharing. And I was like, I would never do that. And then I had a 3.5-month-old that literally never slept. And so we bed shared. And I was very grateful to that Breastfeeding Association for teaching me how to bed share as safe as possible for the best health for my family. And look, I probably never sleep train simply because it doesn't work with me. It doesn't work with my mind, my body, the way I parent, all of the above. But doesn't mean that it might not be right for you if you're in crisis mode. But yeah, I bed shared. I would prefer not to bed share if I have another child, but if it happens.
Oh yeah, I mean, I prefer a baby that sleeps from 3 weeks old.
Oh, like that'd be really
8,
nice.
9 hours in a go. How good would that be?
But that's just not the kind of children we had. Like, I still don't have that child, so
no.
But anyways,
crazy.
Yeah, in terms of bed sharing versus sleep training, I bed shared. Okay, next one, Siobhan. Baby-led weaning versus puree feeding.
Yeah, so I thought I would do a mix, and I did a mix.
Oh.
So I knew that there were people in the baby-led weaning world that were super passionate about it. I looked into it. I went, yeah, there's lots of good reasons for why this should happen, but sometimes I need to feed a baby, and if that means shoveling food into its mouth, I'm going to do that. When I say shoveling food, I mean feed responsively at a pace that my child likes. It just happens that my child likes food being shoveled in his mouth, and that if I was slow, he would grunt at me. But yeah, I did a mix. I think they both have their benefits. The research demonstrates that there's no clear, that they both have benefits, and that one is not better than the other. It's all about responsive feeding. So what was I going to say? We did start for the purees a bit more because we started, for lots of good evidence-based reasons, solids at 4 months, as opposed to the typically advised 6 months, mostly for allergen. Both me and my husband have some severe food allergies, which we knew our child was at risk of developing. So we wanted to let his immune system experience them early so he could have the best chance to deal with it. And so far he doesn't have any. But
that is rad. Good work. Good work, little body.
Yes. Next one. We're going through these quickly because we know that we have a habit of
rambling,
talking a lot. So breastfeeding versus formula feeding. Did you have any strong opinions one way or the other beforehand?
Breastfeeding. But with that being said, I also had formula in the house before my daughter was born, because I was like, look, if it becomes like I need a break, she's not drinking milk. I don't want to put that undue stress on myself. So I'm going to have formula in the house so that I don't even have to like have any barrier to going to get it. It's just going to be there in solid bottles. And that didn't really work out the way that I planned it, because she never took a goddamn bottle at all. Like never. Like it just, we tried so many different things, and we tried it with breast milk. We never even got to formula because we were like, we'll just give her breast milk first with a bottle and see how that goes. And it just didn't work. Like, I still resent the fact that I can't get my child to take a bottle, because it means that I am forever on call, because she's still breastfeeding at 2.5. Like, it's still like her holy grail. Like, we had a meltdown this morning at 4 a.m. because the sun wasn't up yet, and we night weaned, where it's basically like you can't have milk until the sun comes up. And like, she was mad about that. She was furious, like, because she just loves milk, like breastfeeding that much. It's like it calms her body, it puts her to sleep, whatever. It does so many things. But my God, if only she took a bottle or a dummy. Like, I'd do a dummy, like, in a heartbeat. I wish she took a dummy, but she did not. So anyways, I breastfed and had no choice in the matter, and still have no choice in the matter. It's still fine. Like, I'm still breastfeeding her because it's not a horrible thing for me to do. So, and it works really well at calming her down.
Not that
when she's
it doesn't
overwhelmed.
come without its challenges.
So many challenges, and one of those is later in the list, which is going to be a fun little, like, would you rather kind of question. They're fun. Anyways,
so when it comes to breastfeeding, I breastfed. I was very lucky. I had really good supply. I had a lot of education and really supportive family regarding it. I would like to say I was open to formula feeding. Like you, I had a can of formula in the house for exactly the same reason, so that if something happened, it was there and we didn't have to worry about the shop being closed or whatever. I intellectually am so open to formula feeding. I am much more emotionally open to it than I used to be. I think, like, obviously society, you get like just hammered with breast is best. And I completely agree. I agree with all of that, but I think I would have felt guilty if I had just formula fed, which I hate. I hate that I feel that way.
Absolutely. Me too. And like, I also wish that I had formula fed, because I think it would have reduced my postpartum anxiety significantly, because a lot of my panic attacks were around like being well enough to feed my daughter, because she couldn't eat from anybody else. So like,
I completely agree with you. A lot of mine was around feeding and sleep. Like, I think if I have spoken with my mother at length about like what to do in the event of another child. Like, it makes it sound like a child will just appear on the doorstep one day.
It will, right?
Well, wouldn't that be handy?
No.
Anyway, probably not. You're absolutely
terrifying.
Right. No, I'd never open the door again. But yeah, so like, I think combination feeding in the event of like another child down the line seems, for my own mental health, a better way to do things in terms of I can have longer stretches of sleep. Or maybe I'll get a unicorn baby who sleeps through the night.
I'm just not banking on a unicorn baby.
Thinking. Oh, no, I'm being ridiculous. It seems impossible.
No, I put a video up on TikTok a long time ago now, like a long time in terms of TikTok land, which is like, maybe 3 months ago, where I said, I don't know if I will breastfeed another baby, because I truly don't. I'm not sure if I will ever have another child, because my first one was so difficult for me emotionally, mentally, physically, and it's still hard. Like, I've still got a child that is more challenging for me, and so I don't know if I'll ever like have another child, and if I do, I may not breastfeed at all, because it's just such a challenge for me mentally, physically, like. And as much as like I have extended breastfed, like, I don't hold that in high regard in terms of like feeling like I am, mother is perfectus, because I've got a child that is still breastfeeding at 2.5. Like, just because we're breastfeeding for a long time doesn't mean that it's still like it's the best thing ever, or if I'll do it again. So I don't really know. Anyways, this one was a rambly one. It's my turn, isn't it? Siobhan, screens or no screens before 2?
I very much thought that we would have some screens. I didn't have a hard and fast no screens before 2. I thought we would have them a lot less than we do. We Partly because of we've talked about this on the screen episode, and just to each other we've talked about how we have children with busy minds and busy bodies, and that for us typically late in the afternoon when he comes from daycare, he's overwhelmed, he's sensory overloaded, and he is like, his body just is moving, and so often he finds the same as like adults, right? How often do you sit and veg on the couch and watch TV just to
100.
chill out? So that's what he does. He eats, and same when he was a bit younger, he would eat in front of a screen because it would keep his attention long enough for me to actually get some nutrients into his body. Otherwise, he'd literally be running around the house and swinging off anything he could find, really. So literally, if he can swing on it, he does, and then goes, monkey, monkey, Timo's a monkey. So yeah, it slows him down. So we use it. I wouldn't say we rely on it. There's times where we do rely on it a bit much. When we were locked down for COVID at the beginning of the year, it was Screen City. But you know, it ebbs and flows. You rely on it more sometimes, and you scale back other times.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that I would do screen time more than I did, because my child didn't give an F about a screen until 14 months, and God, I wish she did, because like it was a long 14 months of not having any break with a highly sensitive child that was just constantly unhappy. So yeah, I mean, I definitely went into it thinking I would have more screen time than I did, and my kid didn't want it. So yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's your turn, Siobhan.
Next on the list, we have wooden toys versus plastic toys. I know what your preference is.
All of them.
Well, this is true. Actually, so you love toys. I love that about you.
I love toys.
So I remember, Kristen, when we were in uni, I would always be amazed that like your outfits were so color coordinated. You had like a monochrome vibe. It was like black, white, and grey. Those were your colors. Everything was black, white, and grey.
Yeah.
There was no color involved ever. Sometimes tan, sometimes a tan or beige, something if we're super adventurous. So I had a vision of you having like beautiful shades of wood for everything, and you do have that to some degree, but you have all the other things too.
Yes, I also have Barbies and licensed toys like Bluey and Woody and Bullseye, and whatever my child is interested in and likes is what I get in a lot of color, because like color is actually really important to children. And I'll tell you the irony, like for anyone watching on YouTube, you're going to get this. If you're not, like, I'll just paint a picture. Siobhan, look at my shelves in my office. There are robots and there is toys, and they are all different colors, everything.
But there are grey stationery boxes for you.
There are grey stationery boxes too, because like there's a difference between children and their preferences and me and my preferences, and that's how I like operate my my daughter's like toy selection. It's got a lot to do with her and absolutely nothing to do with me. Like aesthetics can go out the window because toys are like children's work, so they've got to be they've got to be really functional, and like functional is color, because they love color. They love how engaging and interesting it is. They can be boring and minimalist and aesthetic later in their life, in my opinion. But yeah, plastic toys, wooden toys, it doesn't matter. I have a preference for what I will buy with my money, and usually it'll be things that last a long time that I can like keep for my daughter to give to her children, and that's generally not Barbies and stuff like that. I actually let my my family and like friends buy that for Sienna, so that like those are the things she gets a lot of joy out of. So like she like they get that joy out of like giving it to her, because I get the joy of my child literally all the time and every little thing she does. And yeah, I just spend my money on the things that last a long time, which generally happens to be things that are more wooden, things that aren't like Barbies with their crazy hair that gets real gross real quick and goes in the bath and the pool. And yeah, but I think I'm gonna hang on to the Bluey minifigures for the rest of her life, because like those things are the best. So yeah, anyways, that's my opinion. Next
Awesome.
one.
I think the next few can be like put together because they're kind of all sleep related.
Fine. No, I reckon we do them one at a time because there's a
Okay,
bunch of
let's do
research
that.
on all of them individually.
Oh,
Okay.
sure. Let's do that then.
White/pink noise or no noise at sleep time.
I tried everything.
Me too.
I was desperate for anything and everything. I tried all of them. Nothing worked.
And that is because there's no science to support that white noise actually, or pink noise, none of them actually support sleep in any way. But look, I enjoyed it as an adult.
Yeah, I was going to say it helped me insofar as it helped me feel like I was doing something. It helped me signal like, okay,
sleep time.
Like, yeah, and it helped calm out the chaos that was in my brain because of my severe personal anxiety.
Yeah, if you didn't, I don't know if this is normal, but like there's a constant like humming or like song running in my head. I think that's an anxious trait. I don't know. Does that do you have songs constantly running in your head?
Not a song, but I've always got something going, whether it's a conversation with myself or this.
Yeah.
Like the other day, literally, this blows my mind, but I've had this conversation with multiple men. I said to my husband, we were driving, I'm like, what are you thinking about? He said nothing. I went, that doesn't make sense.
That doesn't make sense. No, he has to be like, there has to be some thought in his brain, right?
No, I've had this conversation with so different, like, and I'm sure it's not unique to men, but the men are the ones I've been having the conversations with. Yeah. They all say that no, there's just nothing, and I'm like, I don't get that. I trust that it's real and their experience. I don't know.
Yeah. Slide into our DMs, Parenting Unpacked podcast on Instagram, and please tell us, do you have like a running soundtrack in your brain, or do you have silence in your brain sometimes where you just don't need to think about anything? Because like I'm never quiet. Like no. I was going live on my walk.
You were going live. I have. So when I was pregnant, I did a lot of meditation. I started to creep into the idea of quite like it wasn't perfect, but there were little fleeting moments where there was nothing going on and I was just a body experiencing the world. So I think it could happen.
Okay. I mean, I believe you. I just don't believe you at the same time.
For understanding.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, moving on because that's way off topic.
Yes.
Red light or no light?
I did like a warm light, but that was for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I am really thingy about light. I hate white lights. They upset me. I process it as like an aesthetic thing, but maybe it's more than that. I'm really thinking about strobing lights. So we've got these ceiling fans and white lights on the roof, and then the fan goes over them, and then like they strobe, and it like feels like it sends me into a frenzy. I hate it. So I always turn off and put lamps on. And my husband always rolls his eyes and he's like, it's not that big of a deal, but it is for me. So yes, warm lights, but I had no expectation that would affect my child and his sleep because nothing did.
So I bought one of those like fancy, like it's not a glow dreaming, but like I think it was called an aroma snooze. It like had the white noise, it had the red light, and it had lots of different colored lights. But anyway, it had the red light and it had like aromatherapy or whatever, which like we never really used because it just doesn't really work for me. But the red light, I was like, cool, like we can see in the dark. Like my daughter gets up like every 2 hours. Like I need to see in the dark to see her, like, and it's not meant to like mess with sleep. It's meant to help like with melatonin production according to their like marketing materials. I never even thought about looking into the research. Turns out that even red light messes with the circadian rhythm. And I had this red light on for years. Like I want to say at least 18 months until I did a video on TikTok, like looking at whether it was like a fact or fiction kind of thing. And I found out that red lights really messed with the circadian rhythm. And it happened to coincide with the time when she was like starting to sleep a lot better. So I don't think that turning the red light off made my child sleep better, but I also just like cursed it for being like, you know, it actually does disrupt sleep to some degree. Like it doesn't help produce melatonin. It inhibits it or something because it's still light. It's the best one you can choose, but you shouldn't leave it on all the time. You should turn it off in between, like when you're going in and out. I don't know. So yeah, I had a red light, but it turns out that the science does not support using red light. Yes.
It's not good.
Next one.
Also, sorry if anyone's hearing the audio. There's a man with a snippering, and it's unpleasant for me, and
Welcome
I hope
to
it's
Australian
not too
summer.
unpleasant for you. Yes, so much grass.
Next one, Siobhan.
Okay,
I think it's
next
your turn.
on the list, swaddling versus no swaddling. I have a fun little anecdote about this one. So when my husband's grandmother came to visit us when Timo was 2 or 3 weeks old, she said so she used to be a midwife before she got married. And she's always cared for babies. She has 5 kids of her own, and took in lots of foster kids and kids throughout the years. And so she said, "So what are we up to? Are we swaddling or not swaddling these days? It keeps flipping back and forth. I can't keep track." Which I think is a perfect example of how these things go. And I said, "So we are swaddling at the moment, but who knows if it's anything." So we swaddled Timo because he seemed to like the idea of being snug and tight. His startle reflex woke him up because he was such a light sleeper, because he was in pain, because of his gastro issues. He roused very easily, and he was such a light sleeper, anything would wake him. He didn't really ever enter deep sleep as an infant. And if so, it was very infrequent. So him moving his arm or moving at all in his sleep would wake him. So we did swaddle.
Yeah, I mean, we swaddle because that's the norm, and that's what the midwives taught us how to do in the hospital. But again, I did a fact or fiction research for a TikTok video. Turns out there isn't any scientific evidence supporting swaddling, but also there is millennia of this practice being passed down. If it's not productive, it can still be passed down, but it's kind of endured for a long time. So it's really a cultural practice. Now, my daughter was a Houdini, so we got her out of the swaddle and into a sleeping bag pretty quickly. And then she was super squirmy, and someone's like, "Oh, you need to swaddle her." Turns out she was just a super active sleeper. And so I put her back into the swaddle, and that was a pain in the butt in the middle of the night trying to get a traditional swaddle laid out and put her back down and wrap her all up. It was just so much work. And then she was such a crappy sleeper, and I was seeing these things on forums and stuff being you got to keep swaddling them once they're past 4 months old. And I was isn't that really dangerous? And then I was blaming myself because I wasn't swaddling her, because I was this is too dangerous to swaddle her. And there is evidence that it will reduce the risk of SID, increase the risk of SIDS, if you're swaddling them past when they can roll, and if you do it incorrectly, it'll mess with their hips. But yeah, I just kept seeing you've got to keep swaddling them. And then I was wow, my daughter's sleep is obviously my fault because I'm not swaddling her after the age of 4 months. And yeah, I should be, and I won't do that because it's not safe. And if you're bed sharing, you absolutely can't swaddle because that is not safe. And yeah, it was just, it was one of those things that really effed with my postpartum anxiety mind. So yeah. All I have to tell you is that there's no evidence.
No, and I do wonder, a little side note with the not being any evidence. So just because there isn't evidence doesn't mean that it's not beneficial. It means that it hasn't been appropriately studied. And when it comes to women and children, they are not appropriately studied. No. Historically, anything that a white man is interested in gets studied, and anything that relates to women and women's business is underfunded and under-researched.
And in addition, anything that isn't Western educated, industrialized, rich and democratic, aka weird, aka middle-class white American children, is not studied. So all of the scientific evidence, the great majority of it that we have, is based off of the averages of white middle-class American children. So if your child doesn't fit that scope and you're well, the science says this, but it's not fitting, that's why. Because the science wasn't based on your child or your culture or your societal class, so many different things. It was based off of the average middle-class American child that was white. So yeah. Anyways, moving right along.
on that fun political tangent, whilst let's jump on back to burping or no burping.
I burped and held my daughter upright for half an hour because I was clearly my daughter is sleeping terribly. This must be why, because she was also a happy tracker. She used to spit up a lot. So everyone's you have to hold her up for half an hour after feeding her, and burp her until she lets out a really big burp. And then I did another fact or fiction thing for TikTok. and found out that there's not a lot of evidence on burping either, but also there's some evidence to say that if you burp a child, you are actually making them spit up and that they're less likely to spit up if you don't burp them. But again, this works for the average white American middle class child. Siobhan, I know you have a different experience, so please tell me about it.
Yeah, we burped. We did actually, it's not that different. It's exactly the same. We held him up for a half hour because of his reflux. Yeah, I've heard lots of people say both, and I don't have any information to the contrary.
Yeah.
Like, I think sometimes it comes to babies are born with immature guts. They are very ineffective at controlling their sphincters, and the gas gets trapped. Like, that's just, they gulp air because they're not feeding effectively, because that's how, like there's nothing against you or your baby, but that's just how babies work. Like, they're new and learning how to do things. It's not a perfect system. And so they need to burp, and they're in pain or discomfort. And I think that burping and cuddling and patting gives the parent something to do and allows the parent to respond to their baby. Absolutely. So I think that if it's promoting skin to skin or even like body to body contact and cuddling, then that's a good thing. So I even if it's not directly affecting the outcome of burping, I think there are benefits to it. Having said that, don't know about the spit up, but mind you, is spit up by itself problematic? Not necessarily.
I don't know. I really don't. But like, I think the moral of the story is, if it works for you, it works for you, and keep doing it. If it doesn't, don't do it. And hey, if you want to experiment and see what happens, if you put your baby down without burping them, do it, because all that's going to happen is your baby's either going to wake up really pissed off and in pain, or you're going to realize that you don't need to spend half an hour burping and sitting up with your child in the middle of the night, and you're going to get more sleep. So yeah, just experiment. It's not going to be the end of the world. Just see what works and what doesn't, because no one really knows the answer to any of these things.
Okay, the next one's fun. Homeschool versus generic school. Are you going to homeschool Sienna?
No. I will not be homeschooling Sienna, because I am not one of those parents that has the time, the patience, or the capacity to homeschool my child. And we have a really great schooling system here in Australia. Like, it's not tragic. And I mean, I can supplement whatever she learns at school, which I think she will thrive in. She goes to full-time kindy, daycare, whatever you want to call it now, and she thrives. She loves it. So yeah, I will send her to a generic school, whether it be public or private. I have not made my mind up. But yeah, I won't homeschool her because I don't have that capacity in me. I'm not a stay-at-home mum kind of person. Like, I would love to be. Like, I love the idea of it. I love that, like, some people just thrive off of that, and I take my hat off to them, because that is hard work. But it's not who I am, so I won't be doing homeschooling. But props to you if you do.
Yeah, I won't be either, because I don't want to.
Because I don't want to.
Pretty much. I think, like, there's benefits to both, obviously. I think so, like, when it comes to, and I mean, we've seen this so much with COVID, right? With COVID, homeschooling and distance learning, is that one of the big benefits of homeschooling is that the actual amount of content and, like, learning that has to happen, you can kind of get done in 2 to 3 hours a day, and the rest is free time. So that's a huge benefit. Obviously, the reason school is much longer is that when you've got 30 kids in a classroom, it takes a lot longer to get anyone organized. So that 2 to 3 hours takes longer to just make happen. It's less streamlined. However, having said that, one huge benefit of traditional schooling is that kids learn social, like, structures that it's, sorry, we can't learn what you want to, because there are other people that need things. And like, there's just opportunity for structure and rigor of, like, that aren't necessarily good. I'm not saying that these traits are good, but they are a big part of how the world works. So it's exposure to, like, for example, like office, like an office type job, or like the kind of interactions that occur in the world, that you get more exposure. You can get more exposure in a traditional school setting.
Yeah, so I don't think one is any better than the other. I think it really comes down to your individual child and what works for you. and your child. So I think that you should just kind of like go with the ebb and flow. And like a lot of people don't get a choice. It's a really big privilege to choose to homeschool that not a lot of people get. So yeah, I don't think that there's anything wrong with traditional schooling. It's there for a reason. It's still around and it's still working, and it's produced many a like successful adult. So yeah, I think it's just do what works for you. Hey.
All right. Vax versus no vax. Vax. Easy. Vax. Next.
Yeah. Moving on. I probably shouldn't have put that one in there, but you know, I was fun to be like contentious. Yeah, I'm vax all the way, just because, you know, I trust medical professionals because they have the science in it more than I do.
Yeah, and like, side note, because this is how we operate. My grandfather, it's tiny. It's not too controversial, I don't think. Okay. But I remember talking to my granddad about vaccines and kids, and like just not even asking whether he was vax or no vax, but just saying that some people are anti-vaxxers, and what does he think about that? So my granddad since died, but he was 80, in his like mid-80s at the time. And he went, look, I don't know, but when I was a kid, we'd come home from summer break, and a quarter of the class was dead because they caught measles or polio, or they'd got something. And he said, so it was very normal that like one quarter, 25% of my friend group was dead each year. So he's like, so I think vaccines are really great.
That is, a great perspective.
Yeah, and so I think that one of the huge benefits of vaccines is that we don't see that kind of situation anymore.
It's a privilege kind of thing, right?
Exactly. We don't see measles. We don't see the devastating effects of tuberculosis for children. Like because of vaccination, we don't see the absolute like disaster it strikes on young people's bodies and the toll it takes on families. So I think it's a privilege that we often aren't even aware of.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm all about vaccination.
Moving on. Here's an easy one. Unconditional love and acceptance, or conditional love and acceptance?
I want to be controversial and say conditional.
Oh, really? But are you actually controversial in this topic? That is the question.
Not really. I mean, like, I could be dramatic and say if he kills someone, that will be a trouble. I'll still love him, but I'll be so frustrated and upset and very pained.
Yeah.
So no, I agree. Fine.
Yeah, look, homicide is a tricky one to navigate with your child. If you are facing a homicidal child, I get it. But for the most part, unconditional love and acceptance is bomb. We love it. It's a vibe. Let's just use all the Gen Z words. Or are they even Gen Z words, or am I that old that like I'm sounding really old now?
Mate.
We love it.
I was reading about essays today. I still don't know what they are.
Oh yeah, I'm not really sure what an essay is either.
I think it's like a chav.
I don't even know what a chav is. Like, I will I love my child if she comes home with a mullet? Yes. Will I accept it? Yes. Would I wish it for myself? No.
I would accept it because I'd grizzle about it and say, what are you thinking? That is hideous, but I'm glad that you like it.
Yeah, I don't know how I would navigate that. Like, I'm not a parent of a teenager yet, but I think that I would accept it. I would say, look, if that's the style, that's great. If you love it, that's amazing, and that's all that matters. We need to accept and love our children unconditionally for every part that is a core to their identity, and if alternative presentations that aren't in line with the norm are part of that, that is okay too, because they're their own person, and that is something you have to learn as a parent, how to dissociate yourself from your child, because they are their own person, and that is hard because they grew inside your body. They came from you and they were stuck to you for a good decade.
Yeah, Timo's been saying, go away, mummy, a lot, and it's hurtful. And he's like, he did try to push me over the other day. That was, the good thing is it's funny because he's small and weak. But I try to validate his experience, and I explain that we don't push people and we don't say, go away, because that's not nice. But if you want me to leave, I'll move over here. But in my less glamorous moments, I jokingly go, I birthed you. like it's not actually done in anger, but it is done in a, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me right now? I grew you inside my body and I have the stretch marks to prove it. He doesn't care, obviously, and he will never care. And that's okay too.
Yeah. These things are all fine. Just because we chose to bring them into the world did not mean that they owe us anything at all. No. But we should give them unconditional love and acceptance so they grow up to be happy, healthy humans. And that is very challenging sometimes.
That is the hope.
Yeah. Anyways, next one. Work versus stay at home.
Both.
Yeah, you're kind of doing both, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm very lucky. Both with my husband's work and because I'm my own business, I do 3 days work and 2 days mum time. That's kind of the plan until things change. It's working for us.
Yeah.
It's quite nice. Best of both worlds. It is funny though, on my mum days, I'm like, oh, I really would just want to do some work. And on my work days, I'm like, I miss him.
Yeah. Yeah, that is how I feel. Now that I'm full-time work, like it's a great routine. I think Sienna and I both thrive off the fact that there is like really consistent routines, really great predictability. Like that is a thing that we really like. But yeah, I couldn't be a stay-at-home mom full-time because I just, my mental health can't do it. Yeah, my brain needs so much activity at any time. Like, and as much as I love slowing down and hanging out with my kid, I just can't do that all the time. Like my brain just feeds off of so much activity and my child can't give me that. And nor do I want to put that pressure on her to like feel like she needs to fulfill me at all times. I want her to know that we can get fulfillment outside of children and outside of families and that there is more to us than just one thing. So that's what I want to do. But yeah.
Whatever works.
Totally. I really think that stay-at-home parents, like exclusive stay-at-home parents, have the hardest job on the planet, like because you're expected to do so many things and be on call 24/7, and like that was the one thing that really set my anxiety off was being on call 24/7. Like I'm so impressed with people that can do that.
Yeah, not being in control of your own time I found quite challenging.
Literally ever. Like not just like part of the time, but like if you never have like control of your own time to be able to like go to the toilet by yourself without worrying someone's going to kill themselves by jumping off stairs, like like it's exhausting. Anyways, toilet training versus toilet learning.
We're right in the midst of this. I imagine we will do a combination of the two. At the moment we're just doing purely child-led.
So toilet learning
at the moment, so he's quite interested in the idea of it. Is not at like, so every now and then he'll go potty, pee, and then he'll go grab it and then sit down and then do a pee and go, wow, pee, and then show us and then go to put it on his head, and we'll have to try and stop that happening. But yeah, at the moment we're just very much following his cues. When he shows interest, we do it. I imagine if it happens longer, like if it takes longer than we would like, so for example, if he was 4 and not toilet trained, I'd start like getting out the behaviorism and be like, right, so I'm not in any rush at the moment. He's 2 and 2 months, just under, so 25 months, 26 months. So yeah, we're not in any big rush. It's going fine, and I'll see how we go.
Yeah, same goes here. We're doing child-led. I don't think that we would do toilet training until it became a thing where she wasn't allowed to go to school unless she could toilet by herself. That's a really big like milestone that you need, and like your kid like gets mandated to go to school at a certain point. So I think that like we wouldn't put the hard pressure on until that point, because like negative associations with bodily functions is not okay. But anyways, like I think that's something that we'll do, and like they're still so little. Like for everyone that says that you have to like have your toilet trained by 2.5, you can tell them to F off, because like you don't have to do anything with your child. Creating negative associations with bodily functions will create a negative association with that bodily function for the rest of their life unless you undo it. Like, and you'll make them have shame around their bodily functions and things like that. So child-led is fantastic until such time as it like becomes really problematic on other areas of their life. So yeah, Sienna is afraid of toilets, not potties. Like potties are great, but toilets seem to scare her, so I'm not pushing her into it. When she's ready for it, she can do that. She's great at using the potty. Like she like there's different like signs of readiness for these kinds of things. Like she can hold bodily functions, she can detect when she needs to use it, and she can independently take herself to the toilet. But she has a fear associated with toilets because hey, they're huge, they're noisy, and they're like, what if I fall in? Like all these things happen. So we approach it slowly and carefully, and I get it. I being the person that once put my like, you know, those potty seats that you like, it's got steps up to the toilet and it's got like a smaller seat. I was a very independent toddler and decided that I was going to do that. And so I put the potty seat on myself, and I was going up to the toilet, and it slipped off, and my 2 front teeth hit the porcelain bowl. And yeah, I didn't have 2 front teeth for years because they were like, they had to be like removed, and it was a mess. So like, I get it. My daughter's afraid of toilets.
And
Me
you're
too,
like,
a
you
little
have
bit.
good reason.
But anyway,
lose your teeth.
I will also never use one of those things with the steps purely because of my own trauma.
Yeah.
So we're really limited in how she can use like the toilet independently because I have trauma. But anyways, this is very unrelated to toilet training and toilet learning now. This is just trauma from my childhood. Let's go to the next one. Should we go on toddler bed or double bed?
We do both.
So you do too,
Timo,
that's right.
Yeah, Timo has a toddler bed that he uses for the beginning of the night. So there are occasionally he sleeps through. So we're kind of at maybe a 50-50 sleep through, wake up situation at the moment. Usually when he wakes up, he signals for, let's be honest, it's just me. He only signals for me. And he just sits up and goes, "Mommy, mommy." And I wake up, and then we go into, so in his room is a double bed and a toddler bed. So his cot converted into the side comes off and turns into like a day bed kind of style. So he starts the night in that, which he calls his little bed, and then we transfer to the big bed. So last night we co-slept in the bed shared in the big bed from like one-ish.
Cool.
But yeah, we do both.
Look, I'm just impressed that you've got the room for 2 beds in a room. Like, wow, must be a large room because we don't.
It's not.
We just have a double bed.
Very cramped.
Yeah, no, we just have a double bed. We sold our cot because she never slept in it. Like, she went from bassinet to my bed because she was such a trash sleeper. So yeah, we never had a cot, so we didn't have a toddler bed, and like I was just not even going to like entertain the idea of giving her a toddler bed because I want to be comfy. Like, so I bought nice sheets, I bought a nice doona, I bought nice pillows, and I bought her a big double bed that I was comfy in as well. And that's great because when she first started sleeping in that double bed, I was in there from like 10 p.m. every night. So I spent most of my night in there. I'll even like wake up in the middle of the night, and like if she calls for me, like if it happens to me in the middle of the night, which isn't very often anymore, but if she does, I get up, I take my pillow with me.
Yeah.
And I put it down. Even though there's pillows in her bed, they're not as nice as my pillow, my favorite pillow. So like I commit to the cause, hey, like that's just, I'm here for it. I need to sleep well, and so I'll do that whatever way I can. Okay. Apologize to your child or show no flaws.
Apologize.
Always.
Yeah.
Is apologizing. So I put a TikTok up the other day where I was like, we have to rupture and repair, right? Rupturing and repairing is actually really good for teaching your child that humans aren't perfect and that it's normal to show flaws. But they were like, but what happens when like a parent just like F's up and then suddenly like apologizes and makes it a pattern, like they use it as an excuse. They're like, oh, well, you know, I apologized. And it's like, come on, like that's not what we're doing.
An apology does not a repair make.
Yeah, you've got to make a repair and a promise to do better in the future, to like learn from the experience, right? So we apologize and learn and do better.
Yeah,
when we
and sometimes we don't. Like sometimes we make the same mistakes over and over again. I guess like you have to make like just saying sorry doesn't fix things, and we know this from all of our relationships. But people are slow and they make changes. But it's important for our kids to. If you want your kids to have good judgment and make good decisions, that also includes questioning you and questioning your choices. Like sometimes it comes down to, look, there are elements to this you don't like. I'm thinking with older kids here, but explaining to them there are elements that you maybe don't understand the gravity of, and so I'm taking my job seriously and I'm making a call, and it's okay if you don't agree with me, but this is a decision I'm making. I remember Tina Payne Bryson. She's the author with Dr. Dan Siegler.
Oh yes,
yes, Payne Bryson. There we go. No, Tina Payne
Tina,
Bryson.
yeah, good, right.
She gave an example in one of her books, or maybe I listened to one of her talks or something, but saying that she had a teenager who made some dumb choices out driving one night, and she went, look, it is my job to keep you safe. That is my job. And I know you don't like this, but I'm taking the keys away from you because I can't trust you to keep yourself safe. So we're taking some steps back, and I'm putting this back in my basket. This is my job. And she said he was not happy. He was very angry. Didn't talk to her for a little while. But she's like, but this is my job, so I'm doing what I can to keep you safe because I can't trust you to do it. And I think that is we have to be very reductive and sit back and be like, what are the pieces of this situation? It's to raise a healthy, independent, functional, loving, kind person who believes in themselves and others. And so we show them that by showing them that people make mistakes, that we're humans, that we make mistakes, and that it's okay to say sorry, and it's okay to identify our weaknesses, and that it's being vulnerable and accepting of our weaknesses is one of our strengths.
And it's not an excuse. You can't use apologies as an excuse for your behavior. And I think what's really important is you need to model the behaviors that you want your child to present. So when we teach our children to apologize, we don't just teach them to say sorry, or maybe some people do, but you shouldn't. You should teach them to make amends, and the sorry should be genuine alongside that. But we apologize and we make amends. So we show them how to do that so that they can learn by watching us. So we go, I'm really sorry that I yelled at you. I shouldn't have done that. I promise not to do it again. Or at least I promise to try. And we explain why it happened. I was getting really overwhelmed. My body was freaking out, and I just lost control for a minute. And I'm going to try really hard not to do that again. What would make this better? What would make you feel better? Would it be a cuddle? Would it be going to play with your toys? How can I make it up to you? And that way you're modeling that you are not perfect, that you are flawed, and you can make mistakes, and that you know how to say sorry, and that you know how to make amends. And your child is literally taking all of that in because they're using their social learning skills, which is their number one way of learning in those early years of life, to get it. And it's just becomes such a norm for them. If you do it over and over again, they aren't going to think anything different. They're not going to think, oh, you just say sorry, you don't actually make amends for it. Anyways, next one, Siobhan. These are would you rathers. I've got two would you rathers based on my life, obviously, because where else does things come from? When breastfeeding, nipple twiddler or underarm tickler?
I used to have an underarm pincher, you pinch this inside bit of my upper arm, and it hurt.
Yeah, it would.
I'd just be covered in bruises, and I looked like a battered person because I was being beaten by my child. Yes, so neither, preferably. But that's
you've got to choose one.
I know, maybe nipple twiddler, because they're already uncomfortable. So why not just add to it?
I'm not sure. I've had both. That's why I put both down. At the moment, it's underarm tickling, and it's infuriating. But it's easier to cover a nipple than it is. Well, it's easier to cover your nipple to stop them from twiddling than it is to keep your underarm closed, because my daughter can wiggle her little fingers in there and she's so persistent on I don't know why she wants to touch my underarm while she's breastfeeding, but she does, and it's infuriating. That's the joys of
so breastfeeding. Which one did you hate less?
Nipple twiddling lasted less long. It was easier to stop that behavior, but no, they both make my skin crawl. I don't have an answer for you.
Wait, so I have to answer, but you're not allowed? Cheeky.
I did answer. I said I would prefer a nipple twiddler because it's easier to stop.
You did. I apologize.
And defend against.
Sure, defend against. Yes, that's the truth.
And then the other would you rather is wake up all night but chill and okay, hold on. This is a child. Would you rather a child that wakes up all night but is chill and independent all day, or would you rather a child that sleeps all night but is constantly demanding and clinging and yelling and needing you all day? Which one?
I don't know. They both sound bad.
That's the point.
I know. Obviously, like the challenge of the up all night but own devices in the day is that there's no opportunity to really engage with or enjoy them. I mean, you could do it, but presumably you're too exhausted anyway.
Yeah.
So even if they were interested in talking to you, you're shattered. So I'm taking this question supremely literally.
Yeah.
And I'm choosing option B, which is sleeping all night but on all day, because I can manage that in terms of my own. So I have a lot of triggers around sleep because of my own postnatal anxiety. Sleep and sleep deprivation was a huge factor for my experience. So if I had a child that was one or the other, I would choose sleeping all night and being on all day, because you can find ways to entertain them. You can activate your village, and you can also send them to daycare.
Yes, absolutely. I would also concur with that. That would be my choice. I had a wake up all night and a constant all day, and that
I was going to say, you had the worst of both worlds.
That is a perfect combination for postnatal anxiety and depression, and that's
what you
throw
got.
a pandemic in with no village, and it just ends up being really fun. But yeah, I would choose sleep all night and constant all day, probably because that's not. I didn't get a sleep. I need sleep. I didn't get sleep. Needed it. Didn't get it. Anyways, that is all of this or that. That is all of the would you rathers. This episode is an hour long.
Let us know if you agree or disagree with any of them in particular. So we have a Instagram for Parenting Unpacked now. We've finally got our act together in a tiny capacity and still failing in so many other ways. So the Instagram handle is Parenting Unpacked AU. Is that right?
No, Parenting Unpacked Podcast.
Oh, sure. Parenting Unpacked Podcast on Instagram. So we'll be sharing clips unseen clips from the podcast, although you can see actually all of them if you go to YouTube. But
everything's there.
Everything's there. So nothing's unseen, but which you can see some more. Won't that be fun?
You can just, who really goes on YouTube that much anymore? I don't really know.
It's a dying media. Not really. I have no idea.
It's not a dying
I'm talking
media.
about at the best of times. So not at all. I'm fibbing.
No.
But consistent with our general rambling, we have an Instagram for the podcast, Parenting Unpacked Podcast. Check it out. Chat to us. Let us know what you agree or disagree with. Tell us that our hair looks nice. That'll make us happy. Just chat to us.
Yeah.
Or you can chat to us at our normal Instagrams at science_minded and at Dr. Kristen Summer.
Yeah, you can chat to us on all the places. I mean, on TikTok, you can't send me a DM because TikTok's really mean and won't let people that aren't my friends send me DMs, but you can send them to my Instagram. I occasionally check them, and I'm very terrible at responding. But yeah, I'm inefficient in all the ways, aren't I? We're very good at rambling now. We've gotten really good at rambling. We went from never rambling in the podcast to just getting real comfortable with you and just rambling all the time. So anyways, this is the end of the podcast. We'll see you next week. We have no idea what next week is going to be, and we probably won't know until halfway through that podcast. So we'll see you then when we talk about something else. Yep, it's going to be a surprise for everyone involved.
Bye.
See you later.